right, so I'm watching a little bit of the Steve Mcrae debate right now, and I shut it down because my wife is going to be home any minute, and I wanted to comment on it. I'll make a video on it. I don't have time to fully watch it tonight or tomorrow or Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe I'll check it out on Thursday and give it full analysis. But as far as this is just first glance, so everybody be patient. Or everybody take this with a grain of salt. But as far as I see going on right now, again, this is first glance. As far as I see going on right now, the logic of what Steve's saying is 100% correct. My understanding of what Steve is arguing, again, take this with a grain of salt because I just turned it on for half an hour, is that there's a colloquial definition of atheism. All atheism means is a lack of belief of God. And there's a philosophical definition of atheism which is more precise. God does not exist. Now, whenever people argue with him, some people are aware of this, some people aren't. But Matt Dillahunty, I believe, is the one who popularized the colloquial definition. And they had a reason for it. The people who are using the colloquial definition sometimes have a reason for it. Why? To make it easier to defend publicly. All atheism means a lack of belief in God. Much easier to defend publicly. And to collect more atheists under the banner. So that it's a political decision and they're kind of cheating. I swear to God, they're cheating. They're cheating. Why? Because they are trying to collect more people under the banner of atheism by defining it very loosely and vaguely. On purpose. On purpose. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I got to go over the actual mechanics of what he was actually arguing structurally, logically seemed to me intact and sound. I'm pretty sure that's a rough estimate of part of it. So in other words, Matt Dillahunty is kind of all atheism mean the lack of belief in God is kind of cheating politically. Why? To collect more atheists. What's a Democrat, Craig? All a Democrat is I'm not a Republican. Hey, I'm a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. Everyone's a Democrat all of a sudden. All it means is I'm not a Republican. You see what you're doing? Hey, we won the election. Why? Because everybody's a Democrat. Well, I'm not a Democrat. Yeah, you are. Why? Because all Democrat means is I'm not a Republican. That's what he's basically arguing, that Matt Dillahunty is kind of cheating, kind of performing a sleight of hand, so the atheist experienced people kind of sort of performing a sleight of hand to collect more atheists under the banner. I'm pretty sure that's the substance of at least one part of his argument. On the other part, it has a lot to do with what I'm saying. A lot of people confuse ontology and belief. Ontology and belief, two separate categories altogether. And the person, now, in terms of his debate tactics, I'll go look at the structure of his argument because there's more that he's talking about. But in terms of debate tactics, Steve's totally fine. I don't see him attacking the opponent at all. At all. He's just debating the argument. He's actually being nice, cool. I don't see any problem with his tactics. Sometimes on Twitter, people get tripped out because Steve kind of... he's never trying to be a douchebag on Twitter, but sometimes he gets frustrated and starts just fighting the person because he gets frustrated. I never blame somebody for doing that. That means you lost patience and you get him mad and then you're starting to act like a douchebag because that's what happened in fights. Sometimes a legitimate conversation or a legitimate disagreement degenerates into a fight. When it degenerates in a fight, by that time you're not really talking at anything. You're just insulting each other, whatever. It's not something I really blame people for if it starts out, in a normal way, you're having a conversation, you're having a disagreement, you're having a debate in good faith, and somewhere along the way it degenerates into an argument. Okay, once it degenerates into an argument, I'll say stupid things, you'll say stupid things, everybody I know will say stupid. You should hear the things I say to my wife. I swear to God, you wouldn't believe the things I say to her when it degenerates into an argument. I can't even tell you. I don't even want to tell you. I should be like, wow, you said that? Yeah. Yeah, I said that. Why? Because she was being annoying. Because when someone started being annoying, get on your nerves, you say the thing you shouldn't say. Duh. That's why it's degenerate at that point. And sometimes when Steve is in the Twitter feud, he stays there long past the point where he should and starts saying, it's really entertaining. Though there are only two people whose Twitter feeds I've read. I look at a lot of people's tweets, the people whose tweets I read probably know I read them because I comment every once in a while. Shannon Paul Gia, Cameron Bartuzzi, Steve Mcrae had to stop. I had to stop reading his tweets. Why? Those Twitter feuds were too entertaining. those agnostic atheist feuds that he'd get into somewhere around December and January. Oh my God, I would read the whole thing. I would spend 2 hours reading his feuds because it was so fun to watch. It was so fun to read. There's only 2 people in Twitter that I've read all their tweets and for the sake of entertainment. Steve Mcrae and Atheist Girl. Atheist Girl, I did it for a few months. I'd read every feud she got, and why? Because it was so fun. It was so fun. She'd say these really crazy, outlandish things to people from left field, and it was just really funny to watch. And with Steve, it was those agnostic atheist debates he'd get on Twitter. I think it was in December. I used to read them all for like 3 months straight. I had to actually take Steve off of the list of the things I check out every day. Why? Because I'd start reading his feuds and I'd get sucked into it, and I'd spend 2 hours reading the entire feud. And I'm like, wait a minute, 2 hours just went by. I got to do something else. So I had to stop checking him every day. Why? Because I'm trying to read his feud. Spend all day reading his feud, not get anything accomplished. But I don't know. I'll go over it. It looks like the logic of what he's presenting is intact. As I've always understood his logical arguments in those Twitter feuds, I usually think he's right. Sometimes people complain about his tactics and they're kind of right, but it's not really. In this debate, he's totally fine. He's totally fine. He's just talking about the argument. That's all he's doing. He's not insulting the guy. He's not raising his voice. Not doing anything wrong in terms of tactics at all. And the structural integrity of his argument seems to be correct. The thing that he argues seems to me at first glance completely correct. I'm pretty sure that Steve, now, again, take this with a grain of salt. I didn't see his opening statement. I'm just going on what I saw for half an hour. But Steve seems to understand fully that there is a colloquial definition of atheism. All atheism means a lack of belief in God, and a philosophical definition of atheism that's more precise. He is arguing that the philosophical definition is one he uses because it's more normative. In other words, it's more in philosophy, not more normative for atheists on Twitter, obviously. Why? Because those guys have all it means lack of belief drilled into their head. And they're dogmatic about it, to be quite frank with you. They're dogmatic. What? No, atheists can't be dogmatic. One time an atheist argued with me that atheists can't be dogmatic. Swear to God, in my comment section. An atheist can't be a dogmatic. And then he defined dogma in a way that I was like, what on earth do you think dogma means, pal? And he started saying, I don't forget how he defined dogma. He said it's something, I don't know, he defined it like a way out there weird way. Like dogma means you rely on tradition to form your beliefs. And we don't rely on tradition, we rely on the truth, or something like that. I'm like, dude, I don't know what on earth you think dogma means, but that ain't it. I forget exactly what he said, but I was like, wow, that's not dogma, Holmes. The rough idea of what dogmatic is that you believe something to, the colloquial definition of dogmatic means you just believe something too strident and won't yield. That's the colloquial definition. That's when, and these agnostic atheist debates, the atheists can be really, really, really stridently dogmatic, really dogmatic. Yeah, irony of ironies. Irony of ironies, really dogmatic. Why was that ironic? Because if you're an anti-theist, one of the big problems with religion is that we're so dogmatic, right? So some of your tribe deconvert from religion, and then irony of ironies become really dogmatic over which is the proper definition for the word atheist. Ultimately, there's a big who cares. Why? Because if I'm arguing with an atheist, I don't care which definition they're using. Why? I'm just trying to prove to them that God exists. It's very simple. I don't care which definition of atheist they're using. Try to tell me, like, shut up. Why? I don't care. I don't care what definition of atheism you're using. Why? I'm just trying to prove to you that God exists. That's pretty straightforward and simple, Greg. Yeah, really, pretty much. I don't care which definition they're using. I don't care how many people they collect in their tribe. Why? Because if I actually manage to prove that God exists, their tribe disappears. Wait, that's rocket science, Greg. Yeah, it really is, isn't it? So I don't waste any time arguing with them over the definition of atheism. Because the thing I am trying to do is actually build a logical proof, or not necessarily logical. It's complex what I'm actually trying to do, and it won't be up and ready and able to be tested out for probably 7 months. When you're actually working on a logically coherent argument, it doesn't take you a week. It takes you months. Months. Why? Because you've got to piece it together. And then you got to battle test it. Once you piece the logical structure of the argument together, then you got to shop it around, battle test. It's not going to be ready in a week. It's going to take you a year if you're doing it properly. Dry Apologist has some thoroughly thought out, logically coherent, structured arguments, theodicies, actually. He's got some that are up there ready to be tested. If I were to test it out, and this is a good idea, guys, I may have suggested in another video, but if you guys want to do it, it's up to you. I would stick my best guy on it, which is John Buck. That's my show horse. No, Stephanie's my workhorse. John Buck is my show horse. Because he's smart. John Buck is really smart. So I'd stick him on Dry Apologist's argument. He's got a complex theodicy that's worked out, and it's logically coherent, and it's structurally... Dry Apologist has taken philosophy in college, and it shows. I have not. It also shows. I know, Greg, it shows. All right, well, you don't have to be personal. It shows, Greg. Why? Because when you talk about it, it does make sense. When he has taken philosophy in college, it shows. Why? Because he knows how to structure a theodicy properly, knows how to structure an argument properly, and he knows how to parse the difference between words when it's important. He's not playing semantics. There's a big difference. A lot of times people think Steve is playing semantics when he isn't. He's parsing out precise definition of words. Why? Because it's actually important to the logic. It's actually important to the logic. Remember that. Next time you accuse Steve of playing semantics, really read his tweets over again, because he's usually not. He's usually parsing out the precise definition. That's usually. Sometimes he gets into a feud and then don't bother with his tweets because it's just tirading. Like I do when I'm what are you doing right now, Greg? You know, I'm not going to make videos. You guys going to attack me personally. Nobody's attacking you, Greg. You're attacking yourself. All right, well, whatever. So, but Dry Apologist, what we should do, and it can be a sparring match, doesn't have to be an official debate, is we should stick our best guy on it, which is John Buck, to attack your argument. John Buck, you should start debating. Why? Because you'd be great at it. And I could train you to do it properly so you'd kill everybody. Kill everybody. I could turn him into a Christian pit bull, I swear to God. Why? Because he's really smart. Really sharp kid. Really bright. His mind works really quickly. So, like all young men, he thinks he's smarter than he is. So I could train him properly to attack an argument, but nobody would see him coming. Why? Because they'll be like, oh, who's this nice Christian boy? Who's this nice Christian young man? And then I go, kill him, stick him, John, and just devour the argument. I think I could. I don't know. Maybe I've overrated his intelligence. I don't think I am. Dry Apologist has an argument, a couple of theodicies that are actually structured properly, whether the arguments themselves are internally sound according to it's hard to explain that properly. His arguments are structured correctly. They need to be battle tested, and I would put my best guy on it, which is John Buck, and have him try to sick the argument, devour that argument. And we could do it as fun, sparring. And we could have a sparring match. That's what I think you guys should do, but it's up to you guys. Stephanie, I'll do the Stephanie can be I'll do the Stephanie debate thing. As these videos get made, I will tell you how Stephanie can become a fantastic debater easily. Easily, I can turn Stephanie into someone who could win 100 debates out of 100 easily every single time, go about every single time and win without even trying. Without even trying. Why? Because the structure of the argument is the most important thing. If the structure of the argument is tact, you don't have to work very hard to win the debate. You really don't. If you're working really hard to win the debate, something's wrong with the structure of your argument. Why? Because you shouldn't have to. The one debate where Matt Dillahunty got meaningfully beaten, I've said this before, but a lot of you don't remember this. There's one debate where Matt Dillahunty got meaningfully beaten, killed, by inspiring philosophy, and the first debate on the Non Sequitur show. Why? So they were debating this. That's your debate, Stephanie. You know the debate I'm talking about, right? The Non Sequitur show, the secular utility of religion. Inspiring philosophy won that debate hands down. Matt Dillahunty is by far and away the best debater in the atheist community. That doesn't mean all of his arguments are necessarily logically sound. But if you put an argument in front of him, he has trained himself to immediately perceive the structural weakness of your argumentation. So if you put an argument in front of him that has asserted something without demonstrating to be the case, he'll zero in on it immediately, zero in the structural weakness of your argument when he's debating in public. There's a whole different thing when he's debating in the atheist experience. There is a street fighter. He's a great street fighter. He's great, excellent at it. Excellent at it. Never catch him in the act of doing it. But a street fighter basically fights different. In the debate I'm watching with Steve Mcrae, sticks to the structure of the guy's argument and his argument. He sticks to the argument. I didn't see him do one insult, one raise his voice, one misdirect, one let me pretend I'm talking about this when I'm talking about that. Not one. The other guy's debating properly too. He's as far as I can tell, he's a nice kid. Nice kid. He seems like a nice kid. You know, I don't think he's quite understanding the argument that Steve is presenting. But Steve is presenting it properly. I'm not sure I said his argument properly. You know, I'll go back and look at the debate. I wanted to put this out before my wife got home. So, Stephanie, inspiring philosophy. That's the debate. The first one he debated Matt Dillon, not the second one not the second one. The first one, the secular utility of religion. He won that easily. Why? Because he asserted something. There's tons of secular utility religion, right? And then Matt Dillon, he goes, you got evidence for that? What inspired? Yeah, actually I do. Thousands of studies. Oh, is the debate over yet? That's the debate. Why? And it goes down just that easy, Stephanie. Everyone will think, oh, it's Stephanie, we'll kill her. That's the debate. That's the one you should be debating. Why? Because there's no way to convincingly beat someone. Matt Dillon, he couldn't beat him. Why? Because where's the flaw? Yes, there's tons of structure it so that I think Christianity is enormously useful or something like, I can't think of a proper structure. Structure it so it sounds like you could lose. It sounds like somebody's going to get killed. And then just say, there's tons of secular utility to religion. Not does God exist. Why? Because that's hard to do in a debate. Why? You have to demonstrate it to be the case. And if you could prove that God exists, don't bother debating anyone. Why? Because then we'll change them all to Christians overnight. Because they're not stupid. If we proved it, then they'll all change into Christians. That's the thing you should be debating, Stephanie. That argument is structurally simple. It's simple. It's structurally, it's completely, Christianity, and it's this simple in structure. It's really this simple in structure. Christianity has profound secular utility. Do you have any evidence for that? Yes, here's thousands of studies. I have this one study, one somewhere, one time long ago that says the opposite. Okay, well, I got 1,000 studies that's saying that, and then just, go over the studies. Do what you do with you. You can be thorough with your research, not quite as thorough as Inspiring Philosophy. Inspiring Philosophy really thoroughly does his homework, impressively so. He really does. That's his strong suit. He's not an excellent debater. He's excellent at compiling, on his channel, he's excellent at compiling all the background information. Really good at that. Way better than me, by the way. I'd never have the patience for that. Never in a million years would I have the patience for that. Dry apologist, you're Theodicy. I say test it out with John Buck. John Buck is my show horse, Stephanie's my workhorse. So that's how this is going down. I think it's a funny idea. It's fun. John Buck will sick your argument and we'll see if you're Theodicy and give him the argument ahead of time. Why? So he can prepare. So we can truly test the structure of your argument. Why? Because then dry apologists will take it back to the shop and keep working until he gets it right. Because that's what somebody who really cares about ideas will do. That's what he will do. It's up to you. You don't have to, but I think it'd be good for your argument. And good for you. Good for him too. Stephanie, that's the argument. Inspiring Philosophy. Rewatch the first debate on the secular utility of religion. Make that your go-to argument. Why? No one will ever be able to beat you on that. Just repeat your talking points. I'll explain that in detail. Nobody will ever beat you on that. Why? Because the argument is structurally flawless, basically. There's tons of secular utility of religion. Oh yeah, you got any evidence? Yes. Matter of fact, I do. Thousands of meta-analysis. You want meta-analytics or you want analytics? Or how do you want these studies? You want them hard? You want them easy? How do you want these studies to go down? Here, eat the studies. Eat the studies. Eat the studies. Look at the studies, shut your fool mouth. Bang. And never stay off. Look at the studies and shut your fool mouth. Look at the studies, shut your fool mouth. I obviously don't say it like that. That's not a very good argument, Craig. Well, that's how I'd argue. Look at the studies, shut up. Look at the studies, shut your face. That's why I don't do debates all the time. Why? Because, That's the argument. That's the argument. That's the thing that you should be shopping around. Why? You kill everybody with it. You kill everybody with it. Everyone's chuckling right now. Can you imagine Stephanie winning a debate? Yeah, easily. If she stuck to a debate that's winnable, sure. I can imagine her winning easily, 100 times out of 100. That debate, structure. And don't do it yet. Why? Because they'll make other, I'm going to do, all right, I got to go. Don't do it yet. But I will make other videos to come to talk about the actual approach to debate. And there's some things that you do really well in debate. Stay on message. It's a really, really, really good skill. And you're really good at it. It drives atheists crazy. Why? Because you're doing it right. Repeating the same things over and over. You're probably a really good teacher. Am I correct? Are you extraordinarily repetitive as a teacher? That means you're a good teacher. Why? Because you got to drill it into somebody's head. If I ever start to get really repetitive, don't complain about it. Why? Because that means you need to hear it. My mom was a teacher by she wasn't actually, she was kind of a teacher. She's kind of a teacher at one point in computers. She was a computer programmer for something or other, Radio Shack, I think. Yeah, Radio Shack, the Taco Bell technology, I swear to God. When she was working in the corporate office in Manhattan, training, and she was responsible for training them on computers. They were upgrading to computers, and she was responsible for training the executives on how to use computers, and she was like the troubleshooter. Yeah, it was a pretty high up job. She made really good money at one point. But she's a teacher by instinct, and she would repeat things to drive you mad. She'll repeat something, drive you mad. Plant her ideas inside of you. That's what she did. Plant her ideas, and she had a go-to phrase, a catchphrase she always used to say. I'd say, I've heard this 1,000 times. Can you not say this tonight? And she'd go, repetition is the mother of learning. And she's right. You're probably a good teacher, Stephanie. Am I right? Why? Because you probably repeat the same thing over and over again. And why you do it? For the same reason. Get it through their thick skull. Get it right through their thick skull. To the point where they're like, do I have to hear this again? Yeah, you have to hear this again. Why? Because you're going to learn it. Because you're going to learn it. Eat your vegetables. Eat your vegetables. Because you're going to eat your vegetables. So that's how I see it. I don't know. I'll make other videos on this. I don't have time probably tomorrow or the next day, but I'll get to this at some point and talk about it in some depth. So those are the ideas on the table. Stephanie, take the secular utility of religion and then wait until you've heard how to argue it properly. You operate properly, I don't foresee how anybody can beat you. I really don't. Why? Because there's no angle to beat. There's no way. That's why Matt Dillahunty went down. If there was an angle to exploit where he could have turned the tables on inspiring philosophy, he would have. He couldn't. Why? Because to do so, he would have to sacrifice his intellectual integrity. He realized he was in a public debate, okay, and people were watching, so he couldn't jujitsu it in any meaningful way. Why? Because the evidence does support the conclusion. If he could have jujitsued it in a way that made sense, he would have. Why? Because he's really good at it. Really good at that. There's no avenue to turn it around on your opponent. None. Why? Because it's pretty straightforward. Do you have any evidence on it? Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Here's 1,000 studies. Structurally, it's basically A equals A. A equals A. I mean, structurally, it's foolproof. But so, anyways, there you have it, kids. That is all for now. I'll do more videos on this in the future. Mass ended. Go in peace. Amen.